So welcome to our third episode of our FINTALKS podcast. The whole idea here is that we talk about situations that often come up in our practice and share some ideas and thoughts of how to deal with these situations so you guys can better prepare for whatever situation you might face. So that being said, today I think we're going to discuss something more matrimonial, divorce related, right?
Yeah, real exciting, right? Everybody loves to talk about divorce. Yes.
So let's take an example, something that happens quite often, a situation that we come across quite often, where say it's a couple, they have two young children, and one of the spouse, after the divorce, right after the decision has been taken, is really stubborn and really wants to keep the house. Now, I want you to talk about maybe why that's not often. Well, not often, but sometimes it might not necessarily be a good idea.
It depends on the situation, right? Every situation is an individual. But what happens that we see often is, unfortunately, the mother, right? Mm-hmm. I want to keep the stability for the kids. I want to make sure, their dad's leaving. It's not good, so I'm going to keep the house. But the thing is, they do it at all price without looking at all the assets, right? And the challenge with keeping the house, if you have no other assets or revenue coming in, is before you know it, you're actually drowning. So here you are, all your money's going towards the house. And you're going to love this. You know what happens? Daddy, who doesn't have that problem, and he's got lots of cash flow, guess what he's doing with the kids?
Yeah, he's having all the fun, right?
Oh, yeah. He's going skiing and horseback riding and let's go to the restaurant and Laron and everything is cool and it's fun. And poor mom is standing there drowning, trying to keep the house and keep the cost down. She's exhausted and she's frustrated.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, so sometimes, like what you're saying is, I guess the first instinct or the reason for wanting the house is to keep that stability, right? To have the children stay in the comfort zone, right? But they don't take into consideration what might happen if you...
Well, they don't take into consideration the stress.
Yeah.
If you don't have the financial means.
This is assuming someone doesn't have the financial means to keep the house, right?
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So that's why I said every situation is different, right? Obviously, if you have it, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've seen many times is they don't have it and they're stubborn about it. No, I'm going to keep the house. I'm going to keep the house. It's going to make good for the kids. It doesn't. It makes you stress. So you're not very pleasant to be with.
And continue your dependency on the other spouse, which is not something you necessarily want.
And emotionally also, here's the reality, right? You're still living in the same house that you were with your spouse, your ex. So emotionally it can be quite challenging. Now you got a new boyfriend coming in. How do you feel about it, right? So there's still some ties to some emotions and reminders that you might not enjoy as much as you thought you would.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the first thing, all of this to say is the first thing you want to look at is your budget, right? Your budget and the cash that's coming from your job or whatever assets that might be split between the spouses.
Yeah. Basically, if you look at the house expenses, it should not be more than 40% of your expenses. If it's more than that, forget it. You're drowning.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're taking away from your future ability to retire too, which is important. Which is important.
You really want to be dependent upon your kids when you grow up, so most of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people will say, well, I'll use the house as an equity, which can be done.
Yeah.
But it's not the most liquid equity that exists out there.
And there's restrictions. There's limits.
There's limits as to what you can do. So the first thing, like I said, keeping the house is one thing. But before you get divorced, obviously, you need to also know your rights, right? Which regime were you actually married on? There's 3 regimes, right? So if you were married before 1970, you're looking at the community of property. If you're married after 1970 and you actually never did a contract or whatever, in Quebec, you are definitely under the separation as to property. And no, that's not true. Forget what I just said. You are under the partnership of Equest. I'm sorry, I'm tired here.
That's okay. The late night podcast today.
Yeah, there you go. And however, if you're on your second marriage, most of us, or there's big differences between the two spouses when they get married, they will do a separation as to property. And that's the one which is also known as a prenup. Yeah. Everybody loves that one. We just love the prenup. So, nothing to start the marriage, but do you mind signing a prenup?
Okay, so once you've considered all those things, right, is what should be the red flag of being, okay, maybe I shouldn't be so stubborn on keeping the house?
Well, your budget, and also know which asset there is. You know, a lot of people don't understand, like, you know, especially when you're dealing with senior executive and then you have the housewife at home who's never looked into the affairs, and he has long-term incentive packages. And most of the people don't actually understand what those are, but they're very valuable. Yeah. You know, they got stock options, and they got deferred restricted stocks and deferred shares and so forth, which are worth a fortune and are much more liquid, by the way. So before going, you know, I want the house irrelevant of everything else. You should know what you
have access to, right? Know what you have the right to.
You know, because there's so many tricks out there, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, you got the family patrimony, that's a given. It's half and half. So you know, the principal house, the cottage, that's a given. The cars, family cars are a given. So those are split, right? Those are given. But you have a lot of other assets. Pension fund also are part of the family patrimony. So those are also given. But there's a lot of other assets which often can be very well hidden.
Depreciating assets, like business assets.
Nothing like a business, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great...
or rental property. Yeah. My property is worth $200,000. Yeah. Not exactly. So know what the assets are. Really do the work to understand what the asset that are existent.
That exists, right? Yeah.
That you can look into.
The real value of them.
Yes. So, and also don't just go after everything. It has to be fair. I know, you know, a lot of time people goes divorce. I'm just going to, you know, get him. He's my ex. I'm just going to get him. Nobody wins. Okay. Don't forget that this is either the father of your kids or the mother of your kids. So going with, I'm going to get everything I can. No, you want to be fair. Be fair. Be fair on both sides. But, you know, if you're high tax bracket and your spouse is low tax bracket, well, there's certain assets you can distribute to your spouse that would be fair. But because she's low tax bracket, let's say like an RSP or whatever, she can get more of the RSP because it won't affect her tax bracket. While you in a higher tax bracket will have to pay more government, right? Yeah. So there's things that you might want to take into consideration before.
So basically what you're saying is before your heart is set on keeping the house, have a general overview of everything that's there, right? Lay everything on the table and really make an educated decision on, first of all, can I afford it? Yeah. Based on the real amount of assets, the real value, and whatever is available to me. After that, I guess that's where you would really calculate, can I afford the house once everything is split? Yeah. Right, because you can't base yourself on...
And also you want to look on the asset, which one is actually...
Which one might be more beneficial to you, right?
Yeah, how do you split the asset in a fair way? Yeah. But it's also beneficial to both parties,
both parties, yeah.
I mean, like I said, if somebody's in a high tax bracket and the other one's not, well, you know, paying an alimony might be better than transferring assets because it's deductible, right? So... and taxable for the receiving one, right? Yeah. So there's different strategy that exists. But there is some rules. So know the rules. If you have kids, there is some rules as how much you have to pay. You can't just...
You can't get by it.
Even if you say, no, I don't want any money for the... No. You don't have a choice. It's there. You know, I don't want the house. No. It's family patrimony. There is some rules. You have to follow the law.
Yeah. All right. So all that to say, I guess, is... If you're in a situation like this, go to the right professionals, have them do the homework with you, review everything, review your plan, review your budget, and then make a decision after that.
Well, yeah, because it's going to release some of the stress. It's already a stressful time. So you need professional advice. You need somebody who's actually level-headed, not emotional in these situations. Because it's hard not to be emotional, right?
Absolutely,
We're all human.
Some of these divorces are
Oof.
are rough. Yeah.
Some can be very challenging, and others are actually kind of funny because they just, no, here you go, I give you everything. And
too amicable, almost.
Yeah, it's almost like, no, whoa, you're not going to be able to live for another, you're going to be living for 2 years and that's it. It's like, so there has to be a just middle.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that's it for today. If you guys want to review any other information that we have a few podcast episodes already out there, and we'll be coming out with more soon.